Happy Miracle Monday. My name is Dawn Petalino, and I am your transformational coach and best-selling author of Peace, Power, and Miracles. And Miracle Monday is just where I remind you of certain truths and offer you certain tools to help you realign with your true self, with the love, the peace, the joy that's inside of you, so your outer world becomes a reflection of that inner world. And today's is about independence versus intimacy. Which is interesting because in my description I talk about trusting other people and trusting the universe, and this is how it plays out. Do you ever find yourself in a position where you're afraid to hope, where you're afraid of being disappointed, where you try not to expect too much, where you don't ask for things because you just don't expect them to come to you, and you almost prefer to prepare for the worst instead of expecting something to go well, because at least that way you'll be prepared, and at least that way you won't be let down. So part of you is kind of almost terrified of being let down, and that stems from somewhere in your past, somewhere during those times where we did get let down, where somehow rejection of someone, well, usually a caretaker, but usually somebody's rejection toward us made us feel like we weren't lovable. So we took on this belief that we weren't lovable, that we weren't worthy of love. And because of that person, that situation, we, took on that belief. And now what happens is we equate this feeling of rejection with being unlovable. But we might take it a step further, and I know I did, where it was the idea of being disappointed was so hardwired with being unlovable. I couldn't bear to be disappointed. And so how that manifests is becoming very independent, not needing other people, not leaning on other people, in a way not really trusting other people to be there for us. But it can either bleed further into not trusting the universe to be there for us, because of that feeling of rejection that we had got so tied in with feeling unworthy and unlovable, that when somebody does disappoint us or did disappoint us, that it confirmed that belief that, oh, see that? I am unlovable, I am unworthy. And that pain became so great that we just avoided the idea of being disappointed. And so it became easier to not hope for good things. It became easier and I just had a situation very recently where I had to have an electrician come to my condo, and I was afraid, I was kind of preparing for the worst of, okay, what if this, and if this, and I was like doing all these what if scenarios in my head. And then it occurred to me, what if it goes well? What if it goes well? And it was so much easier to prepare for the worst than to spend that time that morning thinking, well, it'll turn out okay. Why? Because I didn't want to be disappointed. So how does that work? Now I'm allowing myself to feel bad and worrying for 3 hours unnecessarily, rather than just feeling good or thinking I'll handle it, because I didn't want to be disappointed. And that's how it starts to manifest in our life. We almost want to worry as a way of preparing ourselves so we're not disappointed. So here's the antidote to that. The first thing is we have to recognize that it was true. When we were younger, somewhere along the line, that rejection hurt so badly that it became equated with this idea of not feeling lovable. And everyone deserves to feel lovable. So let's validate that. Not that it was true, but the feelings were true, the experience was true, but then we took on that belief. Secondly, we need to be able, every time that feeling comes up, to remind ourselves, to put our hands on our heart, to think of that young part of us, probably a child, and just remember that small part. I like to remember that young little girl, and just to tell her, you are beautiful and you deserve to feel love, and I will love you now. I am letting my adult self speak to the pained part, that wounded self. And third, we have to remember, I'll handle it. I might not know the facts right now, but As I know the facts, I'll handle it. In the meantime, I'm not going to cause myself pain and grief and suffering by preparing for the worst in my mind. That somehow I can avoid disappointment by just not expecting the best, by just not expecting good things. I can avoid disappointment. Well, here's the other thing. I might avoid pain, but I avoid joy. It's like I would just negate joy. And that is suffering. And so we don't have to, that's not loving ourselves either. And if the whole point of it all is now to love ourselves, then I can say to myself, which I did I finally caught on and said, well, you know what? I don't have to be worrying about this now. I'll find out and I'll deal with it. I'll handle it when it comes. As it turned out, I didn't, it wasn't anything. So all my fears were for naught. But the idea that I can handle it is an adult choice. When we go into victimhood of feeling like, no, I can't, nothing's going to happen for me, we feel that self-pity. If we get rejected, if we feel disappointment and we go into self-pity, we are reconfirming that idea that I'm not lovable. And we don't have to go there. The other side of that is to go into self-righteous. This is the other way I would often block my wanting to trust somebody. My fear of rejection was being superior to somebody and thinking, oh, they don't know anything. Just making myself more superior than them, more self-righteous, and maybe even being a martyr. If they didn't do it my way, I would, oh, now I've got to do it this way, so I can either go into the self-pity or I can go into the martyrdom of being better than somebody or feeling worse than somebody. But both of those are just ways of avoiding that original pain of that rejection. So to be able to feel the pain, to be able to say, yes, that feeling's there, but it is not true. It is not true. I love you. And then to be able to go to our adult self, which isn't victim, which isn't martyr, those are the wounds. The adult self is choice. And the adult self says, you know what? I'll handle it. And here's the final thing. The final thing is sometimes you just have to take a chance and say, I'm just going to take a chance to trust the universe. There's a part of me that's afraid, a part of me that's afraid I'll be disappointed, that I'll be hurt. And I'm just going to dare to take a chance. And sometimes we can just dare ourselves rather than trying to convince ourselves, because convincing, when the belief is strong, it's hard to do. But whenever we could say, you know what, sometimes you just got to take a chance. And, when we do that, I think oftentimes we're pleasantly surprised. So happy Miracle Monday. I hope you take that out with you today. If you found this helpful, like it, share it. You can check out my website, www.dawnpetalino.com. You'll find more resources, blogs, books, materials there. And just remember that today to take a chance on loving yourself and to take a chance on that the universe loves you too. And that, people are often kinder than we realize. Rejection won't kill us. It's just another opportunity to remind ourselves, and I'm still lovable here, and I will handle it. Take care. Have a miraculous Monday. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.